Alex wasn't snooping. He didn't even mean to touch her laptop. But when he went into the home office to grab the phone charger, Tasha's MacBook was open, glowing softly on the desk. The screen was unlocked, the cursor blinking on an email draft she must have forgotten to send. Just as he was about to close it, a message popped up in the corner of the screen. He's starting to suspect. What should we do? Alex froze. The sender's name was simply Jay. At first, he thought it was a scam or spam. But when the notification faded, curiosity gripped him, his heartbeat picked up, something felt off. He clicked the mail app. Hundreds of messages. He typed Jay into the search bar. What he found made his mouth go dry. Emails between Tasha and this Jay going back nearly 6 months. Some short and cryptic, others long conversations about meeting locations, wire transfers, and references to people he'd never heard of. But one thread stood out: subject line, Alex can't know. Hands trembling, Alex clicked it open. Tasha. He thinks I'm going to that fertility seminar next weekend. I booked the suite under a different name just in case. Jay. You're getting sloppy. He's smart. He'll figure it out. Tasha. Relax, he's in love. Love makes men blind. A cold knot formed in Alex's stomach. She'd lied again. Just last week she told him she was staying overnight at a medical conference. He'd even helped her pack. He stared blankly at the screen. Suddenly, all her strange behavior over the past year came rushing back. The late-night phone calls, the deleted messages, the sudden coldness in bed. This wasn't just emotional distance. It was betrayal. But something else bothered him even more. Why the secrecy about using his name? Why the talk about aliases, wire transfers, and cover-ups? This wasn't just an affair. There was something deeper. Something dangerous. From the bathroom, he heard the shower shut off. Footsteps. He shut the laptop and slipped out of the office before she saw him. That night, Alex barely slept. He wasn't just dealing with a cheating wife. He was staring into a dark hole he couldn't yet name. But he knew one thing for sure. He was going to find out who Jay was and what they were hiding. The next morning, Alex played it cool. He kissed Tasha on the forehead as she made coffee, pretending not to notice her stiff shoulders or the way she avoided eye contact. I have a presentation this afternoon, she said casually, eyes on her phone. I'll be home late. He smiled, feigning support. Of course. Want me to leave dinner in the oven? No, I'll grab something on the way. Too smooth, too rehearsed. She was still lying. Once she left, Alex opened her laptop again, the same password she always used. Sapphire 15. She hadn't changed it. Big mistake. He dug deeper this time, going into her browser history, emails, even file folders. And that's when he saw it. A folder tucked deep in her documents drive, innocently named Taxes 2020. He clicked it open. Inside were scanned images of IDs, fake ones, with Tasha's face, different names, different dates of birth. His pulse raced. One file caught his eye, Case Notes JM. He clicked. It was a PDF. Pages of a conversation between Tasha and someone named JM. Initials he immediately assumed stood for Jay Matthews. He skimmed through the text. One line stood out in bold. The man you married cannot know anything about our arrangement. He's your cover. Alex sat back stunned. So it was true. He wasn't just being cheated on. He'd been used. As a shield, a cover, a pawn. His mind raced with questions. Who was Jay Matthews? What arrangement? Was this about money, blackmail, something worse? He copied the files to a flash drive and tucked it in his pocket. That afternoon, he called in sick, then drove across town to meet the one person he hadn't spoken to in years, but could always count on in a crisis. Kevin, his older brother, and a former cybersecurity analyst. When Alex told him everything, Kevin didn't blink. He just opened his laptop and got to work. She's careful, but not careful enough. Kevin said, if Jay Matthews exists, we'll find him. And they did. Well, a trail of him. Multiple phone numbers, fake business names, rental cars, but no real address. No ID under that name. Jay was a ghost, but a ghost with a pattern. Kevin traced Jay's alias to a suite reservation at a hotel downtown, booked last week under the name Lena Tours. Lena was one of the names on Tasha's fake IDs. She hadn't just cheated. Alex waited until nightfall. He told Tasha he had a late strategy meeting at the firm and wouldn't be back until morning, her favorite excuse, thrown right back at her. She nodded without much interest, barely looking up from her phone. By 8:47 p.m., he was parked in a rental car across from the Bridgecrest Hotel. A discreet, high-end place known for being the kind of spot where people went to hide or cheat. Kevin had hacked the system just enough to find the room number, Suite 1109. At 9:15 p.m., a familiar figure stepped out of a black sedan and walked through the front doors like she owned the place. Tasha, hair slicked back, lipstick darker than usual, sunglasses on at night. She didn't look like a woman heading to a fertility seminar. Alex followed her from a distance, keeping his cap low and his jacket zipped. He waited 10 minutes after she entered the elevator before slipping in and heading up. The hallway was eerily quiet. Suite 1109 sat at the far end, next to a service door. Alex put his ear to the wall. Muffled voices. Laughter. Then a name. Jay, not so loud, someone could hear. It hit like a punch to the chest. She was really with him. But Alex didn't come just to listen. He wanted proof. He took out the tiny voice recorder Kevin gave him, pressed record, and placed it inside a room service tray beside the door. Then he knocked. Hard. Silence. Another knock. Footsteps. Who is it? A man's voice barked. Alex didn't answer. He stepped back, watching through the peephole. Then he turned and walked quickly down the hall, slipping into the stairwell just before the door opened. Through the crack he saw Jay, tall, smug, shirtless, and behind him, Tasha in a silk robe. Alex's heart pounded as he left the building. He had what he needed. Back home, he plugged in the recorder. The voices were clear enough. Tasha. He suspects something. I saw the way he looked at me this morning. Jay. Then let's speed this up. Get me access to his company account. One transfer, we're gone. Tasha. If he finds out, he could ruin everything. My marriage was supposed to cover us. Jay. It still can, as long as you play your part. Alex felt sick. Not only was she cheating, she was helping this man try to steal from his company. It wasn't just personal now. It was criminal. And it was time to turn the tables. Alex didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark living room, staring at the flickering light from the voice recorder, listening again and again to Tasha's words. The betrayal was no longer emotional, it was strategic, calculated. She didn't love him. She never did. She loved what he could give her. A name, a company, and cover. By morning, he knew what he had to do. You sure about this? Kevin asked as they met in the back room of a parking space he rented for privacy. Alex nodded. She's planning to rob me. I'm not just going to watch her do it. Kevin slid a laptop toward him. Then let's bait them. They created a fake internal document. An email with wire transfer credentials to a private offshore holding account. It looked like a high-level internal fund movement notice. The kind of thing only Alex and two other directors had access to. Then they planted it on Alex's work computer, making it appear like something he'd been recently editing. All Kevin had to do was leave a digital breadcrumb trail, enough to catch Tasha if she accessed his files remotely or from her own device, which they now knew she did regularly. Then they waited. It didn't take long. 3 days later, Kevin called. She opened the file from her phone. Alex's pulse quickened. And 5 minutes later, Kevin added. It was forwarded to this email, jmatthews.insecure@protonmail.com. There it was. The evidence. Now it was time to go further. Alex arranged a trip, told Tasha he had to attend an investment retreat out of state. He kissed her goodbye that morning, looked into her lying eyes and said, I'll miss you. By 10 p.m. that night, he was parked again outside the Bridgecrest Hotel. Kevin was inside, pretending to be a clerk, feeding him updates. She just arrived, room 1112 this time, same guy. Alex's jaw clenched. But this time, the police were waiting too. 30 minutes later, Alex gave the signal. The voice recording, the fake wire transfer, the emails, all handed over to detectives. A warrant was issued. When the door to room 1112 was forced open, Tasha and Jay barely had time to react. But the final twist came when Jay tried to run. And Tasha didn't stop him. She turned to the police and said, I'll talk, just get me out of this. At the station, she folded quickly. She confessed to the affair, to the planned theft, to the use of fake identities. She claimed she feared Jay and only helped him out of obligation. A story no one truly believed. But Alex didn't care. He had what he needed. Proof, closure, and freedom. The story broke 2 days later. Wife of prominent tech executive, linked to fraud attempt. Corporate scandal, involving internal sabotage and alleged affair. Alex hadn't planned on the headlines. He just wanted justice. But once the police leaked details of the sting operation, the media swarmed like vultures. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Investors called, friends messaged. His own board demanded answers. And in the center of it all was Tasha, being escorted out of the precinct. Hair messy, lips tight, avoiding the cameras. She didn't look like the glamorous woman everyone had admired. She looked like what she was, a liar caught in her own web. But Alex wasn't celebrating. He was sitting in his office, surrounded by silence. The kind of silence that settles in after a storm. The kind that lets the loneliness in. How had he not seen this coming? Had he been so blinded by love that he ignored every red flag? Yes, and that hurt more than anything else. The door opened quietly. Kevin stepped in, holding a manila folder. "We got Jay." Alex looked up, alive. Unfortunately, Kevin smirked. He was found trying to book a private charter out of the country. But here's the thing, the name he used. Alex raised a brow. James Carlton. A name tied to 2 missing persons cases and an old securities fraud scandal from 8 years ago. So this went deeper. Much deeper. Tasha hadn't just married Alex for cover. She'd been working with a known conman with a dangerous past. And now she was trying to cut a deal. Later that night, Alex got a call from Tasha's lawyer. "She wants to talk, just you, one time in person." "Why?" She said she owes you the truth. Alex paused. "Tell her to send it in a letter." Click. He didn't want her words anymore. Not her explanations. Not her tears. Just distance. The next morning, Alex stood in front of his company's staff and gave a statement. "I was betrayed, yes, but I will not be broken. We move forward with integrity, with strength, and with a clear understanding that trust, once broken, must be earned again." The room applauded. For the first time in weeks, Alex smiled. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew this. Tasha's lies had ended. His story had just begun. A week after her arrest, Tasha reappeared not in person but on screen. A local news channel aired an exclusive interview. Wife turned whistleblower or pawn in a bigger game. She sat there, tearful, composed. Her makeup carefully done, the perfect picture of regret. "I was manipulated," she said. "I thought I was protecting my husband. I didn't want to be part of any scheme. But Jay threatened me. I didn't know how to get out." Alex stood in his kitchen, watching the interview play out on TV, jaw clenched. Her performance was calculated, every pause, every tear, every word meant to reclaim her image. "I know I hurt Alex," she continued, "and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." Kevin walked in, coffee in hand. She's playing the sympathy card hard. She's trying to win public opinion before her arraignment. Alex replied, trying to flip the narrative. Kevin shook his head. "You know what's wild? That's not even the most interesting thing I found today." Alex turned. "What do you mean?" Kevin tossed a printed document on the table. Marriage license, Tasha Lewis and James Carlton. Dated 3 months before she met you. Alex stared at the paper. "What is this? You weren't her first husband." "Alex," Kevin said grimly, "Jay wasn't just an ex-boyfriend. He was her husband, and technically, still is. They never filed for divorce." The room spun. Everything stopped. So their marriage wasn't even legal. Alex laughed bitterly. "Why didn't she just take everything and leave?" "Because," Kevin said, "she wanted more than money. She wanted to be admired, respected. She wanted the life you gave her, just not you." The next day, Alex sent the new information to the authorities. It changed everything. Tasha had committed bigamy. Her plea deal was revoked. Bail denied. The media exploded. The same news outlets that pitied her yesterday now ran headlines like, "Double life, cheating wife was already married to alleged conman. Betrayal, bigamy, and a businessman's fight for truth." Alex didn't need revenge. The truth was louder. And it was finally catching up with her. Jay had always been the shadow, slick, hidden, and elusive. But after his arrest at a private airfield, the cracks started to show. Under interrogation, he flipped faster than anyone expected. "She planned the whole thing," he told the investigators. "I didn't even want to go after Alex. She said it was the perfect cover, that he was weak, blind." The recordings from the room were leaked days later, landing on Alex's desk via his lawyer. He listened to Jay talk, emotionless, detached, like betrayal was just another business deal. "She married him for access. She kept the fake marriage to me a secret, so she could use both identities. I told her it was too risky, but she was greedy." Jay gave them emails, text logs, offshore bank statements. He even gave them the USB drive, where the original scam plans were drafted, with Tasha's initials all over them. It was the final nail in her coffin. But what shook Alex the most wasn't the confirmation of her betrayal. It was the coldness with which Jay delivered it. No remorse, no shame. Just strategy. Later that week, Alex received a letter from the district attorney's office. In light of your cooperation and evidence provided, we are offering you the opportunity to testify as the key witness in the state's case against both defendants. This may also influence the outcome of your civil claim. He was being handed power, but the question hung heavy: did he want to face her again? That night, Alex stood at the window of his condo, overlooking the city lights. He thought about everything he'd lost: the time, the trust, the love that never was. But he also thought about what he had left: his integrity, his company, and the truths. Tasha had tried to destroy all three, but she'd failed. And now, she'd have to watch him rise. Without her, the courtroom was tense. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but that didn't stop the public from gathering outside. Reporters lined the sidewalk, whispering updates into microphones, as if the world hinged on every word. Alex sat in the front row of the courtroom, composed, confident. He wore the same navy suit he wore the day he first pitched his company's idea, a reminder to himself of how far he'd come. Tasha entered in handcuffs. She looked smaller somehow, no longer the poised woman who once planned charity galas and smiled in magazine interviews. She glanced at Alex briefly, eyes empty. Jay, in a separate trial, had already pleaded guilty and agreed to serve time in exchange for leniency. Tasha, however, wanted to fight. Her defense team painted her as a victim of coercion, a manipulated woman, a scared wife who fell under the control of a conman. But then Alex took the stand, and everything changed. He laid it all out, from the pop-up message to the fake marriage documents, the voice recordings, the money trail, the plan to rob his company blind. He didn't speak with anger, just truth. The jury watched him, so did Tasha. She didn't cry this time, because she knew the game was over. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. On the charge of wire fraud, guilty. On the charge of conspiracy, guilty. On the charge of bigamy, guilty. On the charge of identity falsification, guilty. Alex closed his eyes, breathing deeply. Tasha stood still, shoulders shaking. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 10. Her attorney asked for a moment. She turned to Alex. "Please," she whispered, barely audible, "don't hate me." He stared at her, cold but calm. "I don't hate you, Tasha," he said. "I just don't know who you ever were." She collapsed into her chair, tears streaming. The bailiff led her away. And just like that, she was gone. 6 months later, the headlines had moved on. The buzz had faded. But Alex had rebuilt. His company had weathered the storm. Investors returned, admiring his resilience. He'd launched a new mentorship initiative for young entrepreneurs, and even started hosting workshops on ethics in business. But more importantly, he'd found peace. He moved into a smaller place, overlooking the river, took morning walks, laughed more. Kevin remained his closest confidant. "You know," Kevin said one afternoon, "you could write a book, call it Married to a Stranger." Alex chuckled, or the password she forgot to change. They both laughed. He'd turned pain into purpose. He had no desire for revenge, no lingering bitterness. Only one truth: he was free. And for the first time in years, Alex finally knew who he was. Not a pawn, not a victim, just a man who chose himself.